All right, welcome final three to your rites of passage. Basically, the way this is going to work is we're going to talk about every single player that was eliminated from this game. You guys can give your thoughts, however much you need to say about that person, and we will go ahead and get started in the order they were eliminated. Starting off with our first boot icon, we have Zach. Who would like to start?
Zach's such a sweetheart. Um, it was a real bittersweet one because Zach wasn't around because Zach was in the hospital for majority of the round, and so people just perceived them to be inactive, which meant that they were an easy boot. But they are such a lovely person, and they never seem to do well in these games. But no, it was a sad one to start the game off for sure.
I mean, I've played multiple games with Zach. They are more than not the first boot just because of inactivity usually. I know that this year's been rough for them because they've been in and out of the hospital like 5 or 6 times at this point. And I hope that they also moved recently, so that's fun for them. I think they did.
I did not know
yeah.
that.
I hope that they are doing well.
I never got to meet Zach, but Zach, I'm sure you're a great person. And yes.
All right. Well, we do hope Zach is doing well. I think that's all. If that's all we need to say about Zach, we will move on to our second boot of the season. Someone I think you guys have a little bit more to say about, particularly two of you in particular. Yeah, let's move over to Tanner. Whoever wants to start.
I'm not starting.
Okay, I'll start. I really liked Tanner, and I know that Tanner, I don't know, but I really liked Tanner, and I thought that Tanner did a very great job in, the storytelling challenge with answering the questions, and he definitely should have relaxed a little, but I really liked Tanner and was happy to meet him, but sad that he got voted out.
Tanner's in a very similar vein to Zach, where Tanner is always an early boot for the most part, and it's because Tanner's got it into his head that he needs to prove himself because he doesn't do very well in these games. So he goes overboard in these games and does too much, which then gets him a target very early on.
Jacob, you said you're abstaining from this one.
No, I won't. First of all, I love how the three of us are also black and white down there. Anyways, so Tanner and I were friends before this game. I still really enjoy Tanner. I may or may not have Tanner blocked, but I probably will unblock him after the season. I think my negative perception through me being inactive or sucking at challenges all came from Tanner and his push to get me out in the first round that we went to tribal, and that definitely made my game harder, and I just didn't really enjoy that he literally called me the night before and was like, oh, like we're working together, we're like 1000%, we're good, and then like the next day he literally targeted me so hard for no reason, and just kind of left a bad taste from that.
All right. Well, I think that's if there's anything else we want to say about Tanner, now's the time. Otherwise, we'll move on. All right. Well, let's move on to our first One World victim. We have King Henry.
I guess I'll start since I didn't start the last two. I don't really have many thoughts on Henry. I didn't really get to interact with him much. He was kind of a little inactive during the One World, and that's why it was kind of easier to get his name pushed more than mine. I was in survival mode at that point, so I really wasn't interested in talking to him because I just wanted him to leave. I did not vote for him. I voted for Caitlin, actually, during that tribal. So I never voted for him, but I'm glad that he went out and I survived.
I also did not vote for Henry. But we didn't talk much. So I'm glad Henry was inactive that round. And especially I especially did not really care for the fact that my face was morphed with Henry's, and like the last couple challenge a couple rounds ago, I did not like that. So thank you.
I still think you should wear a red hat forever. That was just a perfect look. No, I was on a tribe for 2 rounds with Henry. I found him really difficult to talk to. I found you wouldn't get anything from him in conversations. I had a call with him, and it just didn't go anywhere. I felt like I was doing all the work, and I found that really difficult. But then when it got to one world, he just fell off the map and just didn't even try to save himself when he must have known his name was out there. But I voted for him because I had to vote publicly. But yeah, I wasn't too sad to see Henry go, unfortunately. Maybe next game.
All right. Well, if that's all we need to say about Henry, we will move on to someone that I think all of you were on a tribe with at some point. Let's talk about our 4th boot, Danny.
I'll start. This makes me sad. I love Danny. As soon as we found out, we were literally on another game with each other at the final 5 when this game started, and we were like final 2s immediately. I really was gonna stick to that. I love Danny. I think that he's a cool person. But as soon as I was separated from him, I kind of was like, I hope he doesn't get messy, but apparently he did at some point and got himself voted out, which sucks.
Yeah, Danny was chaos personified on our little tribe. On the one world, Danny didn't speak to me at all. Like, wouldn't respond, and I could hear he was talking to other people. So I was like, okay, why are you not talking to me? And then we got into this new tribe, and within like 5 minutes, he was like, I really like you. Let's make an alliance. I was like, I don't know you, but okay. And then Danny was just being very, very messy. Yeah, so Danny just had to go because nobody felt good about Danny being around because of how we thought if he's that easy to make an alliance with people that he didn't really ever had a conversation with, then how he must be doing that in every single other tribe that he's been on, which made us all feel a bit uneasy. And then, but his parting words were incredible. He said something like, "Well, you got me out before I could snake you all." I was like, "Yes."
I also really liked Danny. I viewed Danny and Pavlok and watched him and a couple other housemates argue on in a house call. So that was like really one of the reasons I was very excited to work with Danny when we were on the starting tribes. I was like, okay, So, but then, yeah, I'm not surprised Danny got voted out. He didn't really talk much, and yeah, it happens, but.
I will also say that I think Danny, along with people that are coming up for saving me in the first 2 tribals that I was in danger, because Danny was a part of saving me. So, yeah.
All right. Well, if that's all we need to say about Danny, we will move on to our 5th boot, which is someone that, again, I think all of you were on a tribe with at some point. Once I can find their picture. Oh, there we are. It's Lauren.
I loved Lauren. While this game was going on, she was just making FTC in the game that I host. And she was a real underdog in that story. She had a great personality. She was just really, really good fun. I was working with her fairly closely in the early rounds, and so I was sad to see that she went. So that it wasn't the most huge loss because I didn't quite know where her allegiances fully lied. But she's an absolute sweetheart, and someone who I'm very glad to actually have got to know properly this game.
I'll go next. So Lauren came over to Seaview after Rico was disbanded for the first time, and she came over with Cam, who I wasn't really fond of just because of how that tribal played out, and then Divi, who I was very fond of. So she was just kind of like in the middle. Like, I didn't not like her, I didn't like love her, but I think that I was interested in having a working game relationship with her moving forward. But Then that tribe will happen. That was apparently very messy because we heard about it for the next coming like 3 or 4 fucking rounds. So yeah, apparently she went out in a way that was always lied about, but
I happened to be on the tribe that voted Lauren out. So Lauren came onto the tribe along with me, Josh, Casey, Cody, Divvy, Victoria, Lauren, and Wesley. And it was going to be Wesley. And then Wesley had heard from somebody that it was him. So he used his safety without power. So unfortunately, Lauren got clipped. And I really liked Lauren. I thought she was great to talk to. I thought she was very bubbly, great personality. I really enjoyed working with her for those first few rounds we were together. And yeah.
All right. Well, if that's all we need to say about Lauren, let's move on to our second One World boot. Where is she? There she is. It's our first returnee that came back for this game. Let's talk about Queen, Chloe.
I'll start. I don't have many thoughts on Chloe. I don't think I interacted with her more than twice in this game. Um, she seemed like a sweet person. I was interested in working with her just by like the way she, because she did the music video challenge with us, and she didn't submit her fucking materials until like very very late, and Brian was like freaking out to me about it. But her materials that she sent were really good. I thought they were like cool. But then she went into the One World round and she was completely inactive. I don't think she talked to a single person during that round. So even after a 4-hour fucking immunity challenge, it was pretty obvious that she was that she was going to be the dude.
I also didn't talk to Chloe very much. Maybe hey girl here and there, but that was all. So I was never on a tribe with her or anything.
It was so nice to have some British representation in this game. It was nice to have someone who felt the pain of the time zone. But no, it was. No, Chloe just wasn't around. Chloe was doing a lot to finish up her degree at the time, and she was focusing very much on that. I don't think her head was fully in this game because even when her name was out there and she'd been inactive for like 4 days, and there was a tribal, she was like, "I'm just going shopping for the day," and then didn't ever come back after that. So I don't think she was as invested as other people based on activity in the game.
All right. Well, I didn't mean to do that. We'll go to Brian a little bit later. But if that's all we need to say about Chloe, we're going to move on to somebody I think all of you will have something to say about because one of you started off on a tribe with them. The other ones were on a tribe with them at some point. All of you were on a tribe with them at some point. Let's talk about Divvy.
I love Divvy. Again, I just hosted Divvy in Triumph, and Divvy had a a reputation for being quite panicky and quite nervous when it came to tribal, and that seemed to carry over here, which I think was part of their downfall. As personality-wise, Divvy was the shining star of the season. I think Divvy is just incredible. I was very sad to see them go so early, but I wasn't surprised because of how the murmurs had during the Lauren tribal. Apparently, Divvy was left out of that, and Divvy wasn't very happy about that, and also because of how panicky she was. So I wasn't surprised to see her go.
I can go next. Okay, so I love Divvy. This photo is such a serve, by the way. This is a great photo. But yeah, Divvy and I share our queer identities with each other, and that really connected us immediately. I felt a bond with them. Like, I don't know, it just like we didn't even have to call twice for me to know that Divvy was going to be one of my number one allies throughout the game. They sadly were too big to not be targeted early, and so I wasn't necessarily surprised that they went out early. I was obviously surprised during that tribal because I was not in the loop at all. And it was a 3-2 vote, and I was in the minority. And even though after all day I was like, "Oh, you're not going home. You're not going home. I promise." They ended up very much going home, and I kind of looked stupid there. But yeah, I think that they are amazing and definitely all-stars material.
Divi was also one of my number one allies. I felt like we always connected so well, and like we would be on call for hours at like 2 o'clock in the morning, just talking about this and that. And there was one night when we were talking about something, and they were dyeing their hair blonde. So that was a really fun call to have, and I was very upset to see them go. But I also agree with Jacob that they were gonna go at some point, and it happened, and it still sucked. But I'm very glad I met Divi. I also viewed Divi in Triumph, so when I saw them on the cast list, I was like, ooh, perfect, another person that I was very happy to work with. So glad to have met them. And yeah.
All right. Well, if that's all we need to say about Divi, we will move on to our first victim of the first live night of this game. Let's talk about Wesley.
Well, Wesley was not a victim of a live night, but Wesley was a person that just for some reason when we were put on that tribe together, he lied to me about the Divi boot, and then we went to our next tribe, which he was voted out of, and he immediately messaged me and he was like, "Hey, I think it's obvious that I'm probably gonna push your name this this round," which I was like, "Okay, you're just immediately gonna say that before we even do the challenge? Like, okay, that's questionable, but whatever." So I was glad Wesley was booted. It was another round where I thought that I was going to be the boot. Brian was telling me all day that I was going to be the boot. But then Wesley went out 6-1. So
I liked Wesley. I thought he was pretty cool. We had a couple calls, where he talked game with me, and I thought, yeah, that's pretty much about it. I don't have much to say.
I really like Wesley. I've played a couple of games with him now. He doesn't seem to do very well. I don't think I've ever seen him make jury. So I was kind of rooting for him to get there. But then obviously he didn't. He also couldn't keep quiet about his powers because everyone seemed to know about them. He was like, "Don't tell anyone," and then everyone else knew. But no, he's a really, really good guy. And he's really working on his activity as well, because the first couple of games I played with him, he was so inactive, and he's definitely picking that up a little bit, which is good. Just keep going.
Okay, well, you said to keep going, so I know it's not about that, but you said to keep going. But if that's all we have to say about Wesley, we will move on to our actual live night boots, which is he's right here. Let's talk about Brian.
I'll start. I loved Brian, and I thought Brian was so funny. Like when he would write in the tribe chats and call everyone besties, and then just talk about being horny all the time. So I would be living for Brian content, and we were never together after like the first after the first tribe together, but he was just always just like had a ball of energy and very, very personable. And I really enjoyed talking to Brian. So I was very sad to see him go there. Had anybody told me a different name, I would have voted differently. But
And there was me convinced that you had me told a different name, because
Nope.
Josh and I tried so hard to keep Brian safe. But saying that, after Brian was out, I found out lots about his game that surprised me. He's the biggest anomaly in this entire game for me, because Brian and I are really, really good friends outside of this game. And that doesn't always mean that we work together, but we seem to just connect to this game. We've had games where we haven't worked together. That's all fine. But yeah, but I found out that so much about what Brian was saying to me was a load of rubbish about like the legacy advantage, about this and that, and I was very, very confused. apparently, I have a podcast with CODY, which Brian started, which apparently Brian was a guest on. Um, I need to sit down with him after this game and just find out what's gone on. But yeah, love him to bits. He's just an incredible person.
I really like Brian. I think that he was a huge factor in me being saved during the Wesley round, is what I'm hearing from other people. And when his name was pushed out in the first live night, I hated it. I did not want to do it. But he was definitely the first victim of Casey will push a name and not stop. And she just kind of kept everyone in the same room. And every time people would leave, she'd be like, "Oh, that's suspicious. You see those people in that
buddy
room?"
System.
Yeah. So I think that she definitely did that. But then obviously the vote came out being 5-4-3-1. And so it obviously wasn't as easy as it could be. I voted for Mike. He came in a little too hot, being like, "I know my name's out there." So I was like, okay, then I'm gonna vote you. So I definitely tried to say Brian, but it was kind of hard to be able to throw another name out without people hearing because we were playing fucking heads up 7-up. And I was also at work, so I couldn't really do that much.
Oh yeah, you in the bathroom. No, it was really hard because as soon as Josh left with, I think it was you, Leah, Katie was like, "Oh, those two are talking. That's suspicious."
We
And
were
then,
talking, but like about life. Like
I know.
he didn't even tell me to vote for Victoria. I had no clue.
It was crazy because
And then all those votes went elsewhere. Like I was so like the next round, I was like, holy fuck. Like I was just so confused. Like all of those votes were like there were 8 other votes.
they were insane.
I had no clue. I definitely would have voted elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, we got here regardless, but it was still a very, very sad day. Especially when I thought Brian had this blooming advantage, which he could have used.
You did it. You did in fact get there, but there's one more person to talk about before we escape the best of both worlds phase of the game. Let's talk about our final pre-juror, Victoria.
I can start. I found Victoria to be fucking absolutely hilarious. The calls that I had with her were amazing. I think that she was very much like a person that is shy and like doesn't want to open up immediately, but when she does, I think that she's great. She sadly did lie to me during the divvy round, which kind of slowed our relationship a little bit going forward. And then when I saw that she got 4 votes during the live night and then ended up on a tribe with people that I thought would maybe vote her, I kind of was like, yeah, she's probably going to go. And she indeed did. And I don't really think I wasn't too upset because like I already had to deal with Austin during the merge, and I didn't want to have to deal with both people that lied with me. So I'm glad that she went out without me having to be the one that voted her out.
I can go next. I really liked Victoria. I thought she was very kind and just, very kind. I was sad to see her get voted out. And there was something else I had to say about Victoria. Oh, I think had I stayed on that tribe, before I got swapped away, she like immediately messaged me and said, "I think you, me, Divvy should get in an alliance and vote out Wesley or Jacob." So I was like, okay, sure. But then I got slingshotted over to a different tribe. And yeah, so bye-bye, Victoria. It was nice to meet you.
I never really got to connect with Victoria. I found her fairly difficult to talk to. But it makes sense, Jacob, that you say she finds it difficult to open up. But once she's there, she's there. But I didn't really get past that initial unlayering of Victoria. But yeah, she seems nice.
Okay, well, those are all our pre-jurors. Let's move on to our jurors, talking about our first juror here, our second returnee of this game. Let's talk about the King of Ponderosa, two-time King of Ponderosa, CODY.
This is when I thought my game was over straight away, because CODY was someone who I was fairly close with, and then none of us saw this coming. But that was a blindside. And then that after the vote, Cam got very, very angry and made a revenge era chat with Casey, him and I, and was like, we need to get all these people that voted CODY out. Turns out they didn't work very well. But CODY's a great guy. CODY and Brian are also very close, which again baffles me as to why Brian supposedly lied about CODY and I having a podcast, supposedly lied to us about a legacy advantage. It's just very confusing. But apparently CODY was doing some things behind the scenes as well, which were sneaky. So because of that, I'm not surprised that he went.
I think as soon as I heard that CODY was throwing my name out, the first Merge Tribe, I kind of just rolled my eyes. I was kind of over at that point. I was like, these people are going to keep targeting me. It's fucking ridiculous. But then Mr. Austin came over and basically on a silver platter offered me a move to take CODY out. And I immediately was like, let's fucking do it. That sounds amazing. And yeah, and I'm glad that it happened because I think it flipped the game and allowed me to continue on in the game without being fucking targeted every round.
I really liked CODY. I thought that like our calls were always nice. I thought that he was also somebody that like was easy to talk to, whether it was about game or not about game. But I thought that like taking CODY out at that moment, would have been better for me because he was also very good at challenges and also somebody that would probably win immunity. And if he was gonna win immunity, then I couldn't. So he was very good at challenges and whatnot. And yeah, so sorry, CODY.
All right. Well, if that's all we need to say about CODY, let's move on to our second juror, Mr. Cam.
I still don't fully know what he was thinking using the safety without power on Leah. It was just really confusing. But yes, Cam was probably my closest ally up to that point. We had made a final two on like day 2, and we knew about each other's advantages and whatnot from the jump. Cam got voted out with a lot of stuff, which was ridiculous. But yeah, it was really sad to see him go. And at this point, I was like, okay, something's to change here because I'm going home next. But yeah, it was a sad day for me in this game when Cam went.
Cam was obviously someone that wanted me out of the game for whatever reason. I was hearing that he was still targeting me, even though we were having great conversations, and I actually really enjoyed talking to Cam. But hearing that he wanted to target me while having these great conversations really gave me whiplash at every single moment and really confused the fuck out of me. And I also knew that if Sam was saying, "Oh, let's work together," but I knew he was close to Cam because Cam literally came over to see you the first fucking time and was like, "Oh, I'm close to Sam." So he literally outed that very, very quickly. And so I was like, if Sam wants to work with me, I can't have Cam in his ear constantly telling him that I need to leave. And as soon as we heard from Austin that Cam was planning on using his safety without power on Aaliyah, we all kind of decided that Cam was the one that needed to go, especially since you had the second idol, Sam.
I really liked Cam, like in the beginning of the game. I thought that he was somebody that I would have liked to work with. I just thought that, I don't know. He had the story of like he always got 8th place, and like in my first couple games, I always got 10th. Like I got 10th place both times, so I was like, oh, I kind of can relate, relatable. So I did kind of want to work with Cam in a sense that like, oh, well, Cam, maybe I'll vote you out at 7. Something funny, haha. No, but anyways, Cam, yeah, I don't know why he did not use the safety without power on himself, because had I been at that tribal, I don't know, I still might have thrown my vote on Josh, but I knew about the Cam thing, so who knows what I would have done. I wasn't there.
Well, okay. Continuing the saga of things Aaliyah wasn't there for, we move on to our next boot in Josh.
I guess I'll start. Josh was someone that I immediately was drawn to for one reason or another. Um, and we started working together pretty early. I really enjoyed working with him at most points. Some points he made me want to fucking pull my hair out, but that really wasn't, I guess, his fault. He just was a very paranoid person, very similar to Divi, honestly, with how paranoid they'd be during votes. Uh, and so I knew at some point I needed Josh to go, but I was never sure when that would be. So I even though I was on the side of Casey during that vote, I was not completely angry to see Josh go out at that point.
Well, I was close with Josh, obviously, as we all know. I do think that like he was somebody that kind of worried me because although I was close with him, I guess he would just tell people things and I didn't really like that. So it kind of made me nervous. So although I was close with him, I felt like he was somebody that it wouldn't have been better had he been around long term for my game. And then coming into the merge, like I've said, I really think that nobody would have taken me seriously had I said I wanted to vote Josh out. And although I really valued his friendship and I valued him as a player and us working together, I think that just for my game and I would have voted him out, but no one would have believed me. But I loved Josh, so
I think a lot of that, Leah, was down to Austin. Austin was feeding so much into people's heads about how close you guys were. And and this is like that's when, like, a few rounds after Austin went, I was like, I'm really sorry, I believed everything Austin said because I was working closely with Austin at that point, and I was like, so I was believing what he was saying. But no, Josh, I really tried to save Josh that round. Really, he was panicking because his name was up for voting in the last round, so we knew he was getting votes this round. So I said, all right, I've got a plan. We're going to take Casey out. Casey's doing this, 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 and this. Casey can't find out about it. These are the only people that can find out. And Josh was fine. Josh was laid back and did what he needed to do. But then apparently during tribal council, Josh did this whole, woe is me, I'm getting voted out. Oh, that's a sad day all around. And that made Casey paranoid. And what do you do? I don't apparently, according to Casey. But I was so sad Josh went at that point because I really wanted Casey out after finding out what she'd been doing.
All right. Well, if that's all we need to say about Josh, we're going to transition over to our second live night where we have our first victim of said nights in Caitlin.
The Casey Reigns era. Yeah. This was all new information about Caitlin and Austin because I thought I was close with Caitlin. But then finding out from Casey just how close those two were, and then it all seemed to add up. I was like, okay. And then obviously we came to you two and got the ball rolling and made it happen. But yeah, that was a crazy one because neither of them expected it, and then Austin just flew off when he was getting voted out, which was a bit of a sad way to end the game for them. But Caitlin's lovely. Caitlin's such a personality. I was quite surprised because at the start, especially with her name being out there, she was so quiet, but she seemed to really open up after being on a few tribes with her. I really, really enjoyed Caitlin.
Caitlin was someone that I was working closely with, like when Josh left and the remains of Per being me, Austin, Aaliyah, and Caitlin were all there. I was willing to stick with that for a little bit longer, especially because I was interested in taking Caitlin to the end. But then that day just transpired and I heard a bunch of shit that she was just leaking everything. And when I heard that, I also knew how close she was with Austin because she denied to want to vote out Austin all fucking day. So I did what I needed to do. And I was glad when she got voted out.
I really liked Caitlin. I thought that her and I were also working pretty closely together. And I feel like all these alliances that I thought I was in, none of them really like wanted to work with me. And that being my alliance with Caitlin, Austin, and Mike, but because they all like really wanted me out. Anyways, I I liked Caitlin, and then so she was the only person I talked to, and then I found out that she was leaking everything I said, and that wasn't great. So I guess at that point it was either her or myself, and yeah.
All right.
But I really enjoyed her. Oh, sorry to cut you off. I enjoyed her.
No,
Like
you're fine.
we lasted 4.5 hours together on the egg and spoon challenge, and she totally deserved that win. I was so happy that we were just able to even be on there, and she took a lot to put up with me for 5 hours almost. So yeah.
All right. Well, if that's all we need to say about Caitlin, we're going to move on to our second live night boot in Austin.
Austin was great. I really enjoyed talking to Austin. We had multiple 2-hour-ish calls. He spilled everything to me at the beginning of merge and continued throughout the merge to tell me things. And I think I definitely was deciphering a lot of the information that he was telling me a lot more when I found out that he was also telling everyone else everything. And that's when I started to figure out, hey, maybe I should believe every single thing that Austin was telling me. But most of the stuff that he was telling me was useful, and I am glad that I was able to get the information I got from Austin, because it definitely helped me maneuver through the merge. And yeah, I hated the way he went out. I wish that it would have been a more positive and like game is game kind of vibe, but I get being angry because your whole game got like crushed in the matter of like 10 or 20 minutes. But yeah, I hope that he has had some time to calm down, and we can be friends after this. So yeah.
I really liked Austin. Him and I were working together. I thought that, yeah, he also, told me lots of things, which I thought was very useful and very helpful, until he also tried to vote me out, which, I mean, I was only looking out for him and Caitlin, but whatever. Anyways, I thought he would have won had he made it to the end. I definitely would have voted for him. I think he played a great strategic game, and I think he was like the big driving force, to so many votes, and he always knew what was going on, and he played great. So
I really liked Austin. I gave him so many chances to try and work with him, especially the merge, because pre-merge we were really close. I was even wanting to send him my idol when he was on a try, which I thought he'd be in trouble with, but then Prod Tommy wasn't allowed to. And then turns out he then tried to flush that idol a few hours later. But I tried so many times, even after that, to try and have a working relationship with him. And then for the Casey vote, we then made a final two, because obviously Cam had gone, and then found out that was all fast, because he was telling everyone else that we'd had a final two, and that what I was saying to him. So I was like, okay, he needs to go. He's a great player. He's played a little bit messy, but he's a really, really good player and a great guy.
All right. Well, if that's all we need to say about Austin, let's move on to our next juror. Let's move on to Mike.
Mike stressed me out this whole game. He was a person that I never really worked closely with at all. Like, I was never in any alliances with him. We barely talked except for when it was about Pokemon. And those conversations really never went anywhere. And I knew that I was being told that he was close to other people. And I was fine with him going pretty much in any round, but I'm glad that he went in this round, because I think that he was obviously saying my name. The way he went out sucked. I think that he was obviously, again, angry. They told us to go fuck ourselves, I think. I don't know. It was something along those lines. And yeah, I think that he just was a person that I just didn't click with, and that sucks, because I think that he's a cool person. But yeah.
Mike has one of the best hearts I've ever met in these games. Mike's just a genuinely amazing person. I think Mike had a lot going on this game outside of the game, which which was a bit of a distraction. I was really rooting for Mike to get to merge because he's never done that in a Survivor game, and I really wanted him to get there and to see him do as well as he did. I'm so happy. Saying that, he needed to go to Week and Casey because those two would never have turned on each other at all. What made me a little bit sad was the last couple of days, Mike just didn't talk to me at all. I was finding out he was having like full conversations with other people, but it just wouldn't ever respond to me. And I was thinking, what's the need for that? Why are you just not responding? So that made me feel a little bit sad. But I'm really, really proud of him this game. I think he played really, really well.
I genuinely loved Mike, and like I really wanted to I can't talk. I really wanted to work with him, but like it just never synced up. And then I think by the time I came back from exile, things had like gone crazy and whatnot. But like we always had conversations, like our phone conversations were good. I thought that like he was just a great person inside in the game and outside of the game. I mean, in the game, I definitely wanted to vote him out, and I mean, I wanted him gone before he could use the power, but it happens. I don't know how he found so many advantages. I don't know.
Well, if that's all we need to say about Mike, let's move on to our next juror and our last returnee of the season, Jesse.
I love Jesse so much. We've played 2 games prior to this, and we've never connected at all. I found her very similar to talking to Henry, where I couldn't get anything from her at all. But this game, it's taken a whole 180 stance, and we just had really good conversations. We connected on a deeper level. I really, really enjoyed Jessie. I didn't think she should get to the end personally. I thought she, like you, Jacob, I've got a good under the radar story. But so I was sad she went when she did, more because I was lied about it, and I was telling her the whole day, "Oh, you're fine. You're gonna be fine. It's gonna be me, you, and Casey voting." Aaliyah. But yes, that was a sad day. But I'm really, really happy with how our friendship has developed, and that's one thing which I'm going to take from this game for sure.
This is the second part of me and Aaliyah lying saga. Just kidding. We blindsided Casey and took out Mike, and then we blindsided you and took out Jesse. I think that, but we kind of realized that both of you kind of had a stronger connection to both of those people, and we wanted you to hopefully go after each other in the final 4. And if Jesse was there, I think that I would have been the target of final 4, and that just was not good for me. And she also, like you said, Sam, has a similar story to me, and I just did not think that I could beat that in the final 3. If we were both telling the same story, that's not really going to get either of us probably votes at all. So I really enjoyed Jessie. I wish that I would have gotten a call with her. I begged her to call me like 5, 6, 7 times throughout the game. She was always like, "Oh, I'm busy," or "Oh, we'll do it tomorrow." It never ended up happening. So our relationship was a bit lackluster at times, but also I feel like if we were working together, that she was a trustworthy and loyal person. It just sucks that she wasn't ever. We never reached out to each other and were able to be loyal to each other.
I like Jesse. We only got on like 2 calls, and they weren't like very long calls, and it was kind of like, "Oh yeah, like this is what we're doing," and yeah, kind of like things like that. And I don't necessarily think that, I don't know if Jesse really played an under the radar game, rather than if she was kind of just used for a vote until she wasn't necessarily needed as a vote anymore, because I didn't really talk to Jesse, and I feel like a lot of people didn't really talk to Jesse. So I don't know what kind of under the radar game she would have sold to me had I been in the jury. So I really like her, but those are my thoughts on Jesse.
Okay, so with that, we have one more person to talk about. It's the most recent addition to the jury. Let's talk about the final juror, Casey.
Casey was just one of the main characters of the season. It's kind of there. I think that she honestly, when I saw how she played in the first live night, I didn't expect her to get very far in the merge. I expected her to kind of go out early just because of how like much she pushed the name. It was like, we're doing that and that's what's happening. But she was able to do that to multiple people and tell them different names in order to not be voted out. And then she also obviously used her idol at the right time to make sure that she didn't go home then. So yeah, and then so I think she maneuvered the game great. I think that she's a great person. I really enjoyed our calls. I wish that she wasn't trying to manipulate me throughout like a majority of them, but I think that I did see her personality shine through in all those calls, and I really enjoy her, and I do want to be friends outside of this. But she was definitely the obvious boot for me at Final Four.
I think Casey is an amazing person. I think she, played great. I think she definitely, like coming into the merge, she, I think her kind of gameplay was that she said, this is who I'm voting for. And if you vote with her, you vote with her. And if not, then you don't. But I think like it worked. And like Jacob said, she was able to use her idol when she needed to and continue her way on. And then, at that point, like working with her was better for my game. So I didn't necessarily have a reason to take her out if she was not going to target me. So I really like her. Like I said, I think she's a great person inside the game and outside the game. And I'm glad to have met her. So
this was by far the hardest photo of the entire game. More on a personal level, but I know how much this game meant to Casey, and I know how hard she played throughout. Casey, we met in a game prior to this, which was just finishing up as this game started, and we connected in the latter half of that game. So when we got into this game, we're like, okay, let's see if we can make something work. And for the most part, we did. And then it dawned on me just how well Casey was playing almost everyone. Casey is an incredible person. She's so much fun. Kevin will attest after the season. I was so in my feelings the entire day in my project. I think I said to you and Leah as well. I felt so bad about Casey going because she has become one of my best friends in this community in such a short time. It was really, really tough, but I knew it's what needed to be done to better my chances and also to have a more balanced FTC as well, because I think us three have completely different stories, whereas I think Casey would have just shared my votes for the most part, which would have not been a great look for me. But yeah, it was a real tough day.
All right. Well, with that,
we talked about each other.
Oh, Leah, did you speak on Casey?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. Well, with that is your cast, the 18 people that you all outlasted. And tomorrow we will see which one of you end up winning. But other than that, that is it for now.
Thank you so much.